Hey, Ralph, how's it going?
Doing great, Yvonne. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm so excited today.
I am too. I am a big fan. I can't wait.
I know. So we have a special guest today, folks. It is Joseph Sousa from City of San Diego. He is the Workers' Compensation Program Manager, and we've been after him for a little while, but we are so happy that he joined us today. We're talking about his perspective on workers' compensation as a self-insured, self-administered program. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, Ralph. It's a powerhouse episode. I loved it.
Me too. World-class program by a world-class guy. I cannot wait.
I know. So there's a lot of things we love about Joseph. So let's not wait any longer. Let's go talk to him. Are you ready?
Let's go do it.
Well, hello, Rafael. How are you today?
I am doing great, Yvonne. How about you? How's it going in your neck of the woods?
I'm doing fantastic because I'm in sort of closer to your neck of the woods this time. You're in Tampa, Florida. The weather's been perfect.
It has been beautiful, hasn't it? Yeah.
It has. It has. And today we are so excited to have Joseph Sousa join us. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, everyone. How you doing, Yvonne? How you doing, Rafael?
Doing great.
It's great to see you, Joseph. So glad that you were able to join us.
Oh, thank you for the invitation.
Yes. And let our listeners know where you're joining us from.
Yeah, we're joining you from sunny San Diego.
And how's the weather been out there? Is it good?
We're getting back to what San Diego's about. It's been raining the past couple of days, but we need it. So, yep, getting back into some sunshine.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us today, Joseph. So this is actually your first time as a guest on the podcast. We've done a couple of little live things with you at conferences. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're super busy. And for our listeners, you are the Workers' Compensation Program Manager for City of San Diego. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And how long have you had that role?
I've had the role for about going on 3 years.
Awesome. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know you over the last couple of years since I joined Institutes of Health. And I really enjoyed our interactions and getting to know more about your program. So today, that is the topic of our discussion. So this year, we are breaking down workers' compensation sort of to a basic level so that folks that are new to the industry can learn different than we did. Ralph and I, we kind of learned by the school of hard knocks and just had to figure it out on our own. So we really appreciate you coming and joining us today. We're going to talk today about what it means to be a self-insured and self-administered employer.
Okay.
So that's a big conversation to have in about a 30-minute time frame. So we're going to try our best. But let's start with, what does that mean, Joseph? Can you break it down and kind of talk about the economics of what it means to be self-insured?
Yeah, sure. So, many of the public agencies, they're all self-insured, but they're not self-administered. With a public agency being self-insured and self-administered, what it means is that everything is handled in-house. So many of the tasks, you would be responsible for. Whereas if you're not self-administered, a TPA, more likely if you're insured with a TPA, would be doing for you. One of them is the, required state reporting every year that you have to provide to the state. Our self-insureds and our annual reports of inventory. It's just quite cumbersome putting everything together, all the numbers that the state wants to see. Also, I think one of the biggest challenges is the ensure the funding, right? Because you have to have some type of work comp fund established, as we do here in the city of San Diego. We have a work comp fund that's established. So it's critically important for us to really get an understanding of our reserving, ensuring that we're really covering our anticipated liabilities for workers' compensation. Some of the items that I'm tasked with as the claims administrator for the city of San Diego, outside of our compliance with the state of California, is that, I certify our medical provider network every 4 years with the state. That's a big task if you have a medical provider network, which comes with all benefits of having an MPN to begin with. So basically, you act as the insurance company for the employer, right? So we're all City of San Diego employees taking care of our fellow employees. So there lies one of the biggest benefits of us being self-insured and self-administered, is that these are our peers that we are taking care of and ensuring that we're providing the best customer service we can and the best medical care out there to them. But essentially, in a nutshell, when somebody asks me that question, what is the big difference, is that you basically act as the insurance company, even though we're all City of San Diego employees.
Wonderful. So just to break it down for, folks that are listening that are maybe new to the industry. So being self-insured means you create a fund. And so rather than buying an insurance policy, you're setting aside those funds, that money, so that if something happens, the money is there to take care of those liabilities. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then the being self-administered is that you are administrating that fund.
Right. So I love what you said about, the fact that it's peers taking care of peers. Would you say that that's really important in terms of the approach? I heard you say there's more of a customer service approach. So how does that really play out as you're taking care of your injured workers day to day?
Yeah, I feel it's really important to us because many times when we're looking at implementing different types of processes or whatnot, we're getting our folks buy-in, we're reaching out for feedback. We have that personal relationship with a lot of our departments and with our injured employees as well. So, customer service is very important to us. To ensure that we are administrating the benefits timely and explaining the benefits to our employees. We do a lot of outreach to the different departments with just educating them on a Work Comp 101, what that means, when people should be filing for claims and who's eligible and so forth. So there's a lot of education that comes along with that in educating across the different department levels and with supervisors and managers and employees so that they understand that the benefits that they would be eligible for.
I love that because I think that's something we hear time and time again in the industry. One of the biggest stumbling blocks or issues that we see is the fact that injured workers just don't understand what to expect or what's coming. So the fact that you all take a proactive approach in educating everyone about it is, I'm sure, really beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, we really pride ourselves in, really reaching out when a claim is filed as quickly as possible, because, we understand that, these are our peers and we understand the department needs and so forth. So, we really kind of go above and beyond in many ways to ensuring that the communication piece, which is very critical, especially in the early stages of when somebody files a claim, that there's, that communication piece, explaining the benefits so that they know what to expect next.
Great. And anything else to know, from a basic perspective in regards to the economics? So you set funds aside. How does it actually work? You walk us through how that happens.
Yeah. So as far as the funding goes, I'm not completely involved in that, which is probably a good thing because I just like to spend the money. As far as that goes, you do establish a fund, right? And I think, many public agencies, I'm sure there's some differences on how that fund is set up, how they deposit into the fund per se. Is it billed back to each department? Is it based on occupation? Is it based on how many claims is coming in? For example, let's say you have two different departments and the majority of your claims is coming from Department A versus Department B. So are you appropriating the costs based on that, on the number of claims coming from each department? Or are you appropriating based on the expenses paid and the amounts that was paid on each particular claim? So there's a lot of different nuances on how these funds are set up. So it also involves actuarials, really taking a look at your program as we do. We have a actuarial looking at our program every year and forecasting, based on our book of business, what we can expect to see within workers' compensation. Are we expecting an increase? And if so, what are we projecting to ensure that the funds are there to cover our costs? With that being said, though, one of the things that we pride ourselves is that, we like to do the right thing, and that does not always entail the most cost-effective method either. But we always strive ourselves to do the right by our fellow employees and ensuring that they have the best care. So it's a lot of moving parts. It's a really interesting to kind of, when you start breaking it down and really understanding all those different parts that come together and being self-insured and having those funds available.
Thank you. Ralph, did you want to interject anything yet?
I did, Joseph. I love this conversation, right? Because when you start comparing it with an insured program, it really starts making you think, wow, the amount of responsibility that a self-insured, and even more than that, self-administered program, that funding aspect of it, where are these dollars coming from? Is it federal dollars? Is it state dollars? Is it city tax base? Do we know where those dollars are coming from to fund the workers' compensation program?
Yeah, I mean, it's all city-based, right? Because we have a really high degree of financial fiduciary to our constituents, which is our taxpayers. So everything is billed back through the departments. So that's how our funds are established. It's each department pays into the fund, and the criteria, can vary depending on whether how many claims each department is how many claims are coming out of each department, the payroll of each department, and so forth. So there's a whole bunch of different criteria but it's, as a public agency, city, self-insured, self-administered, right? One of our biggest responsibilities is our financial fiduciary to our constituents, our taxpayers, to ensure that that we are providing the essential benefits that we have to provide per state regulations, but also being cost containment oriented as well on where can we have savings within workers' compensation. I know we've had discussions in the past as well, Yvonne, about cost containment measures, and one of the responses I've always had is, you don't save money on workers' compensation by denying claims, right? So it's really kind of understanding what type of program you want to put in place and really being transparent on how you administer those benefits.
I love that. And we're going to talk about that here because that's a big, huge difference, right? Joseph, the funding, does it come to you all at once? So one time a year you get a big amount of dollars, or is it coming to you quarterly, monthly? How does that fund that you've spoken about, how does it get funded? All at once or intervals throughout the year?
That's a very good question, Rafael. I'm not completely clear on how that fund is funded. I'm thinking that it's funded definitely within per budget cycle. Is how it is being budgeted, but that's more, it really comes through our Department of Finance and our finance manager that kind of handles those aspects. I told them, I have so much to worry and to handle about. The one less thing on my plate is, I'm like, you just give me the green light to go, and that's all I need.
Sure. I mean, it's a huge responsibility. Because like you said, you just need those dollars to make sure you're paying the benefits and the medical care.
Right,
Joseph,
absolutely.
You mentioned it's these details. My goodness gracious, the medical network, right? You're responsible for that. To be able to provide each employee the right care, you have to have an incredible network of providers, right? From the gamut, from dentistry to orthopedic to neuro. I mean, you name it, you must have the largest list of doctors and physicians in the world.
I mean, yeah, I mean, look, having a medical provider network to initiate it, it is no easy task. It is a lengthy process to put it all together. However, with that being said, I wouldn't have it any other way because, our medical provider network really is a cost containment measure for the city as well. And that you're right, Rafael, I have to ensure that we have the right amount of specialties in there. There's some specialties that you have to have set at a certain amount per state regulations for MPNs, but you also have to ensure, with the with your occupational medical centers, any changes that occur that you have to notify the state. So there's quite a bit of administering your medical provider network, and that's a year-long continuum, right? You're consistently managing your MPN, ensuring that physicians are following your philosophy in providing medical care to your employees, and that is very important. And then any type of addition to the MPN, I go out and I meet the physicians because I like to talk about what is our philosophy, what are our the expectations for the city of San Diego for treatment for our employees, and expectations for risk management. We discuss return to work, which is a major focal point, and so forth. So, having that interaction with the physicians, I think is very important when you have an MPN, because, you need to make sure that folks understand what is your philosophy? What are you looking to get out of the physician's office? What do you want them to provide and what level of care and so forth? So really critical to have those discussions early on, before you are bringing on any additions.
I love it. What a great tool. I mean, Joseph, I can see why your results are off the charts, right? Because you truly, I mean, if you're talking to all of your physicians and you know exactly who's in your network and you're already learning about what their philosophy of care and treatment is, I mean, it's no wonder that you enjoy such incredible success in the program you run. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, for some folks who probably don't realize, I mean, San Diego, we are the second largest city in the state of California. And our full-time employee base is a little over 13,000. So we're considered a pretty good size employer in the county of San Diego. So really sometimes it's, taking a step back and kind of taking a look at the program. We have to assess the program every single day and see what's working, what's not working. And you have to be very fluid in having a self-insured, self-administered program, because, something that was working 2 years ago might not be the best approach to how you're doing things today. As the climate changes, as injuries continue to change, treatment continues to develop. There's different types of new treatment out there. But, being self-insured, self-administered, if there's one word that somebody would say, what is the biggest benefit of being self-insured and self-administered, to me is flexibility. I have the flexibility to kind of change the program where we could implement something almost instantaneously to the benefit of our employees. So flexibility is key for us, because we're consistently looking at implementing different ways of doing things.
Man, I love it. I love it. I love it. Because you're right. When we think about this and that we compare it to an insured, for example, moving that program and bringing something new, it gets really, really difficult, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Very seldom are you able to add a new program, a new service, a new thing overnight. Sometimes it takes years in the making to be able to add. So for you to be able to own it in that regard and be able to bring what an incredible benefit. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and everything we do, right? I mean, it's always for the benefit of the program, right? As the contract administrator, the buck stops with me. I have full responsibility for our compliance with the state of California. That lies on me. And to ensure that we are fully compliant with the state, the rules and the regulations of the law. So, you really have to stay on top of your program, and you have to know how everything is going. It's almost to a point of, micromanaging the program itself, just so that you can implement any type of changes whenever needed.
So I have a question for you, Joseph, because like I said, I've gotten to know you pretty well over the past couple of years. How do you stay on top of all these rules and regulations to make sure that you're compliant? Because I know it's a lot, and I know that you've got a lot on your plate. So how do you go about that?
Multitasking is my superpower. I
think I knew that.
I kind of picked up on that at a very early age in my life. The ability to just multitask multiple things at one time, paying equal attention to them, and to ensure that things get done. And really, that's what really helps me in managing the program, is that, you come into work and you're like, this is what I'm going to get accomplished today. And sometimes you don't get anything on that list accomplished because you're consistently shifting gears, right? So you have to be able to multitask and juggle things and understand that something is going to come your way. For example, something goes wrong in the city today with exposure and employees are impacted, so I'd like to stay on top of the news every morning. My daily routine in the morning starts with looking at the news, because I like to kind of have a heads up on something that's going on that I can see that it's impacting employees. So I'm anticipating that's going to come into work comp, right? So that's really important to me, to just really understand what's going on with city employees out there in the public. And, and you just have to be able to, and you have to be ready for the unexpected. And because this job, it's never a dull moment, and it's constantly on the go, whether you're ready for it or not.
Well, but I mean, tell me, I know that about you, and so thank you for that. But I mean, how do you stay on top of all the different rules and regulations? I know that you're very involved in a couple of organizations like COSIPA and PARMA. Is that how you stay in touch with all the different specific rules and regulations, or how do you go about that?
So I have different avenues or different channels of staying informed of what's going on in the state. With the city of San Diego, we do have the big public relations group, like any other public agency. So I do get internal communication from our public relations, anything to do with state regulations that's being proposed. Our city attorneys is also on top of any regulations to do with workers' compensation. So they're consistently updating me when bills get proposed, so that we can just start monitoring to see, where's this bill heading? Is this something that's actually going to become law and whatnot? For example, like when PTSD was being proposed, right? We were aware of that coming down the pike when they were being proposed, and how it's moving through the state legislature. Do we get a sense that this is going to get moved into law and whatnot? So we start, preparing ourselves for that. Another big channel that I like to stay informed is absolutely through organizations that I like to stay informed with. I'm signed up with, Work Comp Central being one of them. I really enjoy their daily publications that goes out with news that comes out, the DWC as well. So there's those groups, PARMA. I'm also a board member for COSIPA, and I'm actually the vice chair for the San Diego PARMA local chapter. To have a role like a claims administrator for a public agency, you have to put yourself out there, and you need to go out there and get those resources. We cannot operate in a bubble and kind of expect to know what's going out there. So, you have to make an effort to understand when stuff is starting to build, not when it's towards the end, right? Because you can really kind of get a sense, oh, this is something that's going to have an impact in work comp. So you really kind of want to start discussing that with your internal parties, just so that you could be ready if you are anticipating something that's going to have an impact to your program.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for mentioning all the different, stakeholder components. You mentioned attorneys, and I know that is a big resource. Rafael here is an attorney, and so he spends all of his time staying up to speed on certain rules and regulations and in the stuff that he's involved in. So, Ralph, anything else you want to interject?
Joseph, the self-administered aspect of the program is also mind-blowing to me, right?
Yeah.
You've already spoken about the medical care and how much time it takes to build that network. At the essence of comp, it's medical care, but there are also, indemnity benefits and staff members, that work under you that must communicate with that injured employee and keep up with and make sure that they understand what's happening, what's going on. Give us a little glance at that, right? Because that's, wow, you talk about difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we're very unique where, we're issuing all our payments in-house, right? And one of the successes for us is that, the way we've structured our organizational chart within workers' compensation, that really, we have teams, right? So we have a team dedicated to our fire department and our lifeguards. We have a team that's dedicated just to our police claims. We have a team that's dedicated to what we call the other bigger departments, like our public utilities and transportation and so forth. And another team that handles some of our other departments, like our park and rec and our library. So really, I see that as really, really unique and fun and challenging part for us is all these different departments, and you get to learn how the city operates. We're so fortunate that we sit in a department that we are like this little cell, but yet we touch every single thing that goes on in the city. And that probably is one of the greatest things that I really enjoy being self-insured, self-administered, is that you really get an inside look of how the city operates and really understanding what employees do and what the departments are responsible for. So, networking is so critical, and it's so important that you build these relationships, across the different departments. But yeah, so having these teams structured to really handle certain departments really helps with them really kind of building that bridge of understanding and really understanding how certain departments operate. For example, especially with our first responders, being police and fire being our two largest, right? So like our teams for example, for our police team, we go out, our claims reps goes out for ride-alongs with our police department, right? And our fire team has gone out to the different fire stations and really kind of get an understanding of like a day in the life of a firefighter, a day in the life of a police officer, a day in the life of somebody who's out there paving the streets and whatnot, our collection drivers. So it's really important for us to really understand what our employees do, because when those mechanisms of injury is coming in on your claim, you can then you can really understand that. You could say, I can understand how this person got hurt, right? So the claim is coming across to you. It's not like a stranger. It's not like just any type. It's not just a claim number, right? It's a fellow employee, and you really have an understanding of how that injury can occur because of your knowledge of these different departments that you're responsible for handling their claims. And it really helps us with building our customer service and building our relationships with our departments as well, letting them know that we're here to help you. And working closely with our wellness groups in our police and our fire, and also our compliance department and our safety folks, right? Because the only way you can reduce your workers' compensation costs is through a very robust wellness and safety program. You can't prevent every injury and illness from occurring, but you can certainly prevent a lot of the musculoskeletal injuries. So having a robust wellness and safety program is critical to your work comp program as well.
So let me interject there for a second, Joseph. I know that to be the case, and I've learned about the culture in the city of San Diego that has been built around wellness and safety. But I know I've heard you say this before, and I hope I get it right. Correct me if I'm wrong. But even though your workforce has grown quite a bit over the past several years, you would think that that would mean that the workers' compensation costs have also increased, but they have not. They've stayed relatively flat. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So the actuarial that we just did on the last one that we did, for the first time in several years, our workers' compensation costs nudged up only about a point or two. So relatively flat compared to prior years when we were jumping between 4 to 6% increases. Like anything in workers' compensation, right? Medical costs go up every single year, right? You can't control the cost of medical treatment. But what you can do is have, really effective cost containment measures in place to help control those costs. So you would think that our costs would be skyrocketed, right? But what our philosophy is here in workers' compensation for the city is that, we like to take an early intervention approach into our claims handling process. And what I mean by that, for example, a simple MRI, right? If we're like 30 days into a claim and the employee has not improved, and we have not seen a return to work, I want to get the MRI now. I don't want to wait 2 to 3 months down the road to get a diagnostic test, right? So we like to get involved early on, especially with our biggest cost driver claims, which is our cancer claims and our heart and also PTSD with our presumptives, since we have our first responders, right? So we don't shy away from those claims. We like to get involved early on because what our numbers have shown is that, and this has been our belief, is that the earlier you can get involved with those claims, the better outcomes you're going to have for your program. Getting involved early, delivering the treatment as early as you possibly can, and helps you also control the costs of the claim rather than jumping in 2 years later when the claim costs have already ballooned and now you're just kind of working your way backwards.
You make it sound so easy, Joseph. I know that Ralph's probably going to say the same thing, but it just sounds like the epitome of a perfect program. I know it's not perfect, but I heard you mention a lot of things that we're constantly talking about in comp, right? So when you talked about building your own network, the importance of knowing the providers, visiting them on site to understand what their facilities look like and that they understand your philosophy and how you want your workers treated. That's so important. I also heard you say when you're talking about the culture of wellness and safety, that customer service aspect, I think that really goes a long way to building the compassion that the folks that are involved in handling the claims have, because like you said, they are their coworkers, they are their peers. Ralph, what else did you pick up on? I picked up on like quite a few things.
Joseph, I've heard you speak about all of these issues now for the last couple of years, and I am in awe, man, of everything you're doing. How lucky is the city to have you, how lucky we all are to have public servants like you who really care about their job and taking care of their fellow employees, because you really are. You're amazing. All of these different components that you're putting together, and Yvonne already said it, right? Wellness and safety at the very bottom of that as a foundation, it pays off dividends because you're seeing healthier employees, which, by the way, insurance coverage for health insurance problems gets helped by this philosophy, let alone an employee who is healthy enough to return back to work again. So touchdowns everywhere, man. You are so good at this, Joseph. I'm always learning from you.
And one of the other elements that I think it's so important to kind of call out when it comes to the wellness and safety is that what you're teaching, and again, correct me if I get astray here, what you're teaching when you're when you're building that culture is you're having your employees take ownership of their own journey, right? They have much more invested in their own journey. So there's much more a higher level of self-efficacy. They understand that there are certain things within their control that they can control. So I just think it's amazing what you guys have built there in the city of San Diego.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you're absolutely right? Because I think, I mean, we've had this discussion in the past that many times in workers' compensation, the one person missing at the table of discussion is the injured employee.
Absolutely.
And they should be at the forefront. It's their body. They should play a role. They should have a voice in their recovery. So, we have to remember that when we are putting together programs and so forth, that, I know that if in their shoes, if I was injured, I want to have a voice on what kind of treatment I receive and how I receive it. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's living through this injury and where your families are impacted and so forth. So, in workers' compensation, you have to have a passion for workers' compensation, right? Because it is probably one of the most difficult jobs that claims reps have, right? And essentially, but the trade-off for workers' comp is that, and this is what's really, continued for me to have my passion in workers' compensation 21 years later, is that, you have so many tools at your disposal to be able to help somebody get back on their feet again. That to me is really amazing, and you are, you become so well versed in different aspects of different programs, right? You get to know legal, and you get to know medical, and I mean, and you work with laws and regulations. So it's just it's one of those careers that you're never bored. Totally fits my type of personality, right? I need to be challenged day in and day out. I need to be felt like I'm making a difference in my job. I'm not just showing up to work and punching in a time clock and whatnot, that I can actually leave at the end of my job every single day knowing that I made a difference.
That's something we say a lot, right, Ralph? That, workers' compensation is one of those things that if you get in, doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter what you did before. There's just so much to it. I continue to find it fascinating.
Yeah,
I do too. Joseph, I marvel at, and you've spoken about it before, you did it again today. You've become an expert, in claims of firemen, police, your different sections of the city, right? Because you need to be, just because you know one doesn't mean you know them all. Just because you understand a couple of them doesn't, in a city with that many employees and all those departments, how incredibly great, how wonderfully that you are serving each of those entities to be able to learn about, what are the specific needs of that particular employee doing that kind of work. Man, awesome. It really is.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, and you mentioned something, Ian, that I always, kind of call out to the fact that you have and that you orchestrate the ride-alongs, so the people that are working on the claims are actually going to visit the firefighters, putting on those suits that they wear every day, putting on the equipment that they wear. Same thing with police. And I think that really goes a long way to helping to understand the kinds of injuries that they get, because unless you're walking in their shoes, you really don't get it, right?
Yeah, you don't. I mean, and what it does at the end of the day is really it humanizes the process, right? Where in workers' compensation, right, it's very easy just because of the way just because of how workers' compensation is structured, that, there's a claim number assigned to you. Sometimes that claim number becomes you. Right. So it really, we have to have that humanization aspect, that this is not just a claims number. This is not just a numbers game of being put up against a policy, or whether you're self-insured or you're self-administered, and really understanding that, we're dealing with, the person, there is a human being on the other end of this, that you're trying to take care of and to make whole again to the best of our ability, to most of the times to no fault of their own, they were injured on the job. And we need to provide those benefits and provide them timely. But I think it's really, really important that we don't lose the humanization in workers' compensation.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And all of this with oftentimes employees, Joseph, that are lifelong employees, right? Most cities have folks that are injured, but they want to stay. They want to continue to work. So what an incredible, almost responsibility you hold to make sure that those folks who want to continue to stay with the city remain with the city. Just beautiful, man.
Yeah, I mean, because we're all assets, right? Employees, we are assets to your employer, regardless of where you're working or whatnot. So, when you start really looking at the numbers of what it really costs somebody, it costs an employer from the date of hire through at the time when they file a claim. I mean, it's amazing, the numbers when you start putting them together. So, it's really understanding that, if we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing in workers' compensation and trying to make this person whole and trying to bring them back to work, right? I mean, you're potentially losing a position. Yeah. Right. And having that department without a particular position. And now they're down a person, two people. And many of the folks in the city, right, they're all different specializations, right? For example, if you have an electrician, not just somebody who can just step into those shoes and do that type of work. Many of these positions are specialized, which requires training and certifications and investment from the employer. So really important for us, and that ensuring that, we're doing what we need to do in our group to have folks come back to work and come back to work healthy.
Well, Joseph, we're at time, and I we could have gone on. I know that Ralph and I could have gone at least another hour talking to you. It's so easy to chat with you. You're so easy to talk to. But so we didn't get too much into the weeds on like the self-administered part, but I do know that because I've heard you talk about it before, just the level of detail that must be managed. And I think it's just noteworthy to say that, those are all City of San Diego employees. Again, so there's ownership and this camaraderie of the fact that you're working for your peers, you're taking care of your peers. I think that's important. So let's take a pause on that. Again, thanks so much. But I want to ask you now on a personal level. So how do you stay fresh? There's a lot of information that you have to keep track of. There's a lot that you demand about yourself, to do this job. How do you keep yourself fresh and ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched base on this. As far as the knowledge factor, I'd like to, I'm a social person to begin with. So I like to build relationships with my peers up and down the state because, it's refreshing when you have questions about your program or about different types of treatment. And it's really, really refreshing that you can just reach out to other folks and say, hey, what is your city doing with these types of claims, right? How are you guys handling this type? So, and you're going to get that honest feedback from your peers, right? So, so as far as that aspect, it's really important that, like I said, that we cannot operate within our own bubble. Right. It doesn't matter what's going on with the state. You do need to know what's going on in Sacramento. You need to know if there's stuff coming down the pike that's going to impact you and whatnot. And, and utilize a lot of your local resources too. There's so many groups out there in workers' compensation that you can be part of. To me, when it comes to like continuing education, it's so important to me for face-to-face. I just think that you get so much more in person, where you can build relationships. You can kind of get much more than take trainings and whatnot. It is important to do it via Zoom and all that, but to try to get out there more often, I think is really important. Attending conventions, work comp conventions. There's so much knowledge available at these conventions. There's quite a few of them out there where you really kind of get the all the information of what's coming down there, so that you can be prepared for that. So just a couple of things to just kind of stay and every single day. And like I said, you know, I have to come into work every day with just a clear head. And
Sure.
the minute I step into my car outside my house, I'm in work mode
Right.
and ready, you know. But really understanding that, you know, the importance of balance, which I've talked quite a bit about. I preach that to my fellow employees, but I also have to remember for myself, because it's very easy to get burned out and not take care of yourself and just kind of get tangled up in the weeds. So really important to understand the importance of a work-life balance.
Well, and that's kind of where I was heading is I know that you love to travel. So is that what you do primarily to recharge your own battery?
Yes, absolutely. I have a passion for traveling. I love to explore the world, and I have you know, really unique interest for architecture and culture and food. And I'm a big foodie, and I just love to just experience different cultures and just to kind of see the world. So yes, I do have a passion for traveling, and that's how I stay grounded.
Awesome. And what's on the agenda for this year? Any fun trips planned?
Yeah, so I'm heading to Japan next month. So I'm really looking forward to that. I was in Japan last year. I'm heading back again. Potentially one item off of my bucket list, which is Egypt, because I really want to see the pyramids. I'm a big history, so history kind of plays a part into which location traveling around the world.
Awesome. Well, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's awesome.
Well, listen, Joseph, I know you're busy. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with Ralph and I today. We really do appreciate all that you do.
No, and thank you both for everything that you do for the work comp community as well. It's greatly appreciated.
Aw, you're sweet. All right. Well, and like we always say, until later, hasta luego.